Love doesn't always arrive with roses and perfect timing. Sometimes it shows up when everything feels broken. That's exactly what happens in episode 146 of Beyond the Gates, Dani and Nicole. Two souls who've spent most of the season walking on emotional glass finally face the truth they've been running from, not just about each other, but about what love really means when it stops being a fairy tale and starts being real. The episode opens in a quiet moment that feels heavy, almost sacred. Dani sits alone, lost in thought, the weight of the past weeks pressing down on her like fog she can't escape. For the first time, she looks tired, not just physically, but emotionally. There's no anger left, no performance, just silence. The kind of silence that says everything words can't. Nicole enters, softly, like someone walking into a memory she's afraid to disturb. You can tell she's been thinking about this moment for a long time, rehearsing every possible version of how it could go. And yet now that it's here, none of the words seem right. For most of the season, Dani has built herself into something unbreakable. She's always been the one who leaves before she gets left, the one who laughs before she lets herself cry. But episode 146 tears down that armor piece by piece. When Nicole sits across from her, there's a stillness that feels like truth waiting to be spoken. Dani doesn't look up right away. She knows that one glance could undo months of pretending she doesn't care. Then, finally, she speaks, not loudly, not dramatically, but with the quiet honesty of someone who's finally too tired to lie. She admits she doesn't know what love means anymore. That every time she thinks she's found it, it slips away like sand through her fingers. Nicole listens, really listens, her eyes filled with that soft kind of pain that comes from understanding too well. It's not pity, it's recognition. Because she's been there to dot this scene doesn't need loud music or fancy camera moves. The emotion lives in the pauses, in the way Dani's voice trembles on certain words, in the way Nicole breathes before she answers. When she finally does, it's with a kind of calm that only comes from being broken before. She tells Dani that love isn't supposed to be perfect. It's supposed to be honest. And sometimes honesty looks like admitting you're scared. Dani doesn't reply right away. You can see the storm in her eyes, years of pain, fear, and hope crashing all at once. And for the first time, she lets herself feel it all. No walls, no defenses, just raw, messy truth. Nicole doesn't rush to fill the silence. She just stays quietly present, and that simple act says more than 1,000 apologies ever could. As they sit there, you realize this moment isn't just about romance. It's about healing, about two people finally choosing to stop fighting the world and start facing themselves. It's the kind of scene that stays with you long after the credits roll, not because of what's said, but because of what's felt. And that's what makes episode 146 special. It isn't about twists or betrayals or cliffhangers. It's about two people who have been through the fire finally finding the courage to speak the truth, that love isn't about winning or losing. It's about being brave enough to stay even when staying hurts. The silence after Nicole's words doesn't feel empty. It feels alive. It stretches across the room like a thread connecting two hearts that have both forgotten what it feels like to be held without fear. Dani stares at her hands, the same hands that once built her walls, the same hands that pushed people away before they could get too close. And for the first time, those hands tremble. It's a small thing, almost invisible, but it's the first real sign that something inside her is breaking open. Dani has always been the strong one, not because she wanted to be, but because she had to be. She grew up believing that love was something you earned by being perfect, by never needing too much, by always being the one who could handle everything. Somewhere along the way, she started to mistake independence for safety. And safety, she thought, was the same as peace. But peace doesn't come from being untouched, it comes from being seen and accepted in all your chaos. That's what Nicole brings into this moment. She doesn't try to fix Dani. She doesn't rush to comfort her. She just allows her to be. There's a flashback woven into the conversation. A memory of Dani standing in the rain outside her old apartment, clutching a letter she never sent. We don't see what it says, but we can feel it. The rain is her excuse for crying. The thunder hides the sound of her breaking. That memory fades back into the present, where Nicole sits across from her, patient and steady, like a lighthouse waiting for the storm to pass. When Dani finally speaks again, her voice carries the weight of years. She confesses that every time she's let someone love her, she's ended up alone. Not because they left her, but because she left first. She says she thought walking away meant control, but really, it was fear disguised as power. Nicole listens, her face soft, but her eyes unflinching. She doesn't say I understand. She doesn't say it's okay. She simply says, you don't have to run this time. That line hits harder than any declaration of love could. It's simple, but it breaks through every layer Dani has built around her heart. You can almost feel the air shift. Dani's breath catches, her shoulders drop, and for a moment, she looks weightless, as if setting down something she's carried too long. There's no dramatic music, no tears streaming down faces. Just quiet. And in that quiet, there's healing. We see a close-up of Dani's eyes. They're glassy, unfocused, but there's light there now. She looks at Nicole, not with suspicion or defense, but with a kind of cautious curiosity, as if she's wondering, what if this time it's safe? That question hangs in the air between them, unanswered but powerful. Because for Dani, believing that love could be safe again is the bravest thing she's ever done. Nicole reaches out, not to touch, but to bridge the space between them. Her voice softens when she says that love isn't something that breaks you. It's what holds you together when everything else falls apart. She tells Dani that love isn't supposed to save you, it's supposed to meet you where you are. And maybe for the first time in her life, Dani lets those words in. The moment feels timeless, like everything around them has stopped moving. The lights are dim, the world outside quiet. It's just them two people in the middle of their own wreckage, finding something real. The kind of real that doesn't sparkle, but glows gently like embers that refuse to die. Dani doesn't reply with words. She just nods, her eyes saying what her lips can't. She's tired of fighting love. She's ready to understand it. The camera lingers on that small, unspoken connection. It's not grand or cinematic. It's human. Dani's cracking walls aren't a sign of weakness. They're a sign of life returning. Because when something inside you finally breaks, that's when the light can finally get in. This section of the episode reminds us that love stories aren't built on perfect people. They're built on broken ones who choose to heal together. Dani's quiet surrender becomes the episode's emotional heartbeat, a moment that doesn't need fireworks to feel explosive. And as the scene fades out, you can almost feel the echo of her heartbeat sensing with Nicole's, steady, uncertain. But finally real. Nicole has always been the quiet one, not the kind of quiet that comes from shyness, but the kind that hides strength. The kind that watches, listens, and only speaks when the words matter. And in this moment, when Dani's walls have finally started to fall, that quiet becomes her superpower. Because Nicole doesn't need to raise her voice to be heard. She carries her truth like light, steady and calm, cutting through the darkness that has been hanging over them since the beginning of the season. While Dani is learning how to let go, Nicole is showing what it means to stay. She's been through her own storms, the kind that leave you questioning whether love is worth the pain it brings. Before this conversation, she had her own version of heartbreak, the kind that doesn't make headlines but leaves invisible scars. There was someone once, years ago, who made her believe that love was a battlefield, that to be loved, you had to fight harder, give more, lose yourself a little each time. When that ended, Nicole promised herself she would never let love cost her peace again. But when she met Dani, something changed. Dani was chaos wrapped in charm, a wildfire that made Nicole feel alive again. It wasn't safe, but it was real. And real, Nicole had learned, was worth the risk. That's why when Dani pulls away, when she laughs out, when she hides behind sarcasm and silence, Nicole doesn't leave. She stays not because she's weak, but because she understands that love sometimes means standing in the storm until the other person remembers what sunlight feels like. In episode 146, we finally see Nicole's heart, not the part that forgives too easily, but the part that fights quietly for connection. As Dani talks about her fear of being left, the camera catches Nicole's expression, the kind of stillness that holds oceans behind it. She doesn't interrupt. She doesn't defend herself. She just lets Dani's pain spill out, knowing that sometimes love isn't about giving answers. It's about being the safe space for the questions. Then Nicole speaks. Her voice is soft but sure, the kind that carries conviction without force. She tells Dani that love is not about being unbreakable. It's about being willing to break together and rebuild stronger. She says, "I don't want the version of you that's perfect. I want the one that's real, the one who gets scared, who makes mistakes, who feels too much." That line lands like a whisper but hits with the force of a confession. For the first time, Dani looks at her like she's seeing her for who she truly is, not the calm, collected Nicole everyone assumes has it all together. But a woman who's just as scared of losing as she is of holding on. There's a vulnerability in Nicole that often goes unnoticed. She's not loud about her pain, but it's there in the way her hands fidget when she speaks, in the small hesitations before her words. When she tells Dani that she's tired too, it's not a complaint. It's a confession. She's tired of pretending that love is supposed to be easy. She's tired of holding her breath, waiting for the other shoe to drop. But she's also tired of running from something that could be real. The brilliance of this moment lies in its honesty. It's not cinematic romance. It's human connection. Nicole admits that she doesn't know how to fix everything. She doesn't have the right words or the perfect plan. All she knows is that love is a choice, not a guarantee, and tonight she's choosing Dani again, even after all the hurt. She says, "You don't have to promise me forever. Just promise me you'll try." That single sentence shifts the tone completely. Dani looks at her with disbelief, like she can't understand how someone could still want her after all the damage. But Nicole doesn't flinch. Her eyes stay soft, her voice steady. It's not pity, it's love, raw and patient. In that stillness, we see what makes Nicole extraordinary. She doesn't love to be loved back. She loves because she believes in what love can become when it's honest. The scene lingers as Dani processes Nicole's words. The air feels heavy but sacred, as if something invisible is finally being healed. Nicole's calm becomes the anchor that keeps Dani from drifting away again. And in that moment, it's clear Nicole isn't the one who needs saving. She's the one who reminds Dani that being loved doesn't mean losing control. It means being seen, flaws and all, and still being chosen. By the end of this section, the emotional roles have reversed. Dani, once the strong one, sits fragile but open. Nicole, once the quiet one, becomes the pillar, not through force, but through compassion. It's not about who loves more or who hurts less. It's about two broken people realizing that love isn't a finish line, it's a place you keep coming back to. No matter how many times you fall apart. And as the lights dim and the scene fades, one truth becomes clear. Nicole's strength isn't in her ability to stay. It's in her willingness to understand. Because real love, the kind this episode dares to show, doesn't demand perfection. It just asks you to keep showing up. There's a stillness before dawn that feels different, not the kind that hides pain, but the kind that follows it. The kind that exists when every word that needed to be said has finally been spoken, and all that's left is truth. That's where Dani and Nicole find themselves in the closing moments of episode 146. No shouting, no running, no trying to win the argument. Just two hearts, still bruised but beating in the same rhythm for the first time in a long while. The scene begins with quiet, not empty, but meaningful. You can almost hear their breathing, uneven but sensing slowly. The tension that used to hang between them is gone, replaced by something fragile but real. Dani looks different now, not because her pain has vanished, but because she's stopped pretending it isn't there. Her eyes are softer, her shoulders lighter. She isn't hiding behind her walls anymore. And Nicole, sitting across from her, seems both relieved and exhausted. Like someone who's just come home after a long journey, Dani breaks the silence first. Her voice is low, almost afraid of breaking the calm. She says she's sorry, not just for the things she said, but for the way she pushed love away every time it got close. She admits she didn't know how to be loved without losing herself, that she thought strength meant never needing anyone. The words come out trembling, but they're honest. And honesty, for Dani, is the most terrifying kind of courage. Nicole doesn't rush to respond. She takes a breath, lets the apology sink in, and then she says something simple but powerful. You don't owe me perfect. You owe me real. That line becomes the heartbeat of the entire episode, a quiet reminder that love isn't a test you pass, it's a truth you live. Dani looks at her, and for the first time, you can see understanding flicker behind her eyes. Not relief, not joy, just understanding. The kind that feels like acceptance. Then, something small but beautiful happens. Dani laughs, a short, shaky laugh, the kind that escapes when pain and peace finally collide. Nicole laughs too, softly, and in that moment, they both realize that maybe healing doesn't have to be dramatic. Maybe it's allowed to be gentle. The light in the room shifts, soft morning glow filtering through half-closed blinds. It feels symbolic, like the world itself is breathing again after holding its breath for too long. Nicole reaches out, not to hold Dani's hand, but just to close the space between them. Her fingers rest near Dani's, close enough to touch, but not forcing it. The space between them becomes sacred, not empty, but full of everything they've said and everything they haven't. Dani finally looks up and says, I don't know how to do this. Nicole smiles faintly and replies, Neither do I, but we can learn. It's not a promise of forever. It's a promise of effort, and that's what makes it beautiful. Because real love isn't about certainty. It's about showing up even when you're unsure. The camera lingers on their faces as they sit there, to people who have spent so much of their story surviving, finally learning how to live again. You can feel the quiet pride in the writing here, the courage it takes not just to forgive someone else, but to forgive yourself. Dani's tears aren't dramatic. They're cleansing. Nicole doesn't rush to wipe them away. She lets Dani cry, knowing that sometimes love is letting someone fall apart in peace. As the episode nears its end, we see flashes, moments from earlier in the season, now recontextualized. Every argument, every misunderstanding, every wall built between them wasn't just about fear. It was about learning what love demands. And now, sitting side by side, they understand love doesn't demand to be perfect, it demands to be present. The final line comes from Dani, spoken softly, almost like a secret. Maybe love isn't what I thought it was. Nicole looks at her and whispers. Maybe that's the point. The music swells, not loud, not dramatic, just warm and slow. Like the sound of healing, the camera pulls back as they sit in silence, the light growing brighter. It's not a grand ending. There's no kiss, no declaration, no final twist, just stillness. But that stillness feels like peace, the kind of peace that comes after the storm, when you realize the wreckage didn't destroy you. It just cleared space for something new. Episode 146 doesn't end with closure, it ends with beginning. Dani and Nicole aren't fixed. They're not suddenly perfect, but they're honest. They've stopped performing love and started living it. And maybe that's what makes this scene so powerful. Because it doesn't tell us that love conquers all. It tells us that love tries, even when it hurts. It breathes, even when it's tired. It stays, even when it's scared. As the credits roll, one truth lingers. Love isn't about two people finding each other. It's about two people choosing, again and again, to not let go. And in that quiet morning light, Dani and Nicole finally do just that. They choose.